Hey friend, my name is Tobel and welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. This new video is going to be all about creating a career mode for Flight Simulator. Wait a minute, career mode in a game without a built-in career mode? Yes, through the power of virtual airlines. So virtual airlines are third-party programs or websites that will integrate with your flight simulator and let you take jobs for cargo running, for passenger transport. You can make money, buy planes, hire other pilots, and really stretch the value of your flight simulator experience. So if you're like me, you've already done the tourism thing. We've already gone to the pyramids of Giza. We've flown over the Swiss Alps. And this gives you a reason to keep flying. It also gives you a reason to encourages you to start off small in a general aviation aircraft and work your way up. And the more immersive you let yourself get, the better I think the experience becomes. So there's tons of these virtual airlines out there. I'm going to be showing off OnAir Company Manager. Other alternatives to this would be something like FS Economy, and there's a couple others that are already actually up to date and working with the newest release of Microsoft Flight Simulator. So we are going to go ahead and open up. Again, this is a separate program. This is almost a game in and of itself, and you'll see once I get in here, if you just have a day where you just don't even want to fly, you can literally use this program to manage and make your own company and just simulate pilots flying from point A to point B and make money through cargo runs. It's super in-depth. So it's going to talk to our simulator. We're going to be doing the flying, of course. We will get into Flight Simulator, but I will show you a little bit of OnAir Company Manager up front. So we are going to create Odin Airlines here with the airline code ODIN and our initial location. So there's a couple spots that I really enjoy flying out of, and one of those is in the Pacific Northwest. This little batch of islands here, east of Victoria Island, south of Vancouver, and west of Washington State. This entire, as I click and drag you out to the Pacific Ocean, this entire area is absolutely gorgeous. And so I think I'd love to set up shop somewhere around here. In one of these airports here, Orcas 1 or Orcas, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. This is actually an airport that can be downloaded if you purchase it. It's kind of like a handcrafted airport. So I figured I really love Flight Simulator. I'll get one airport that's really nicely crafted where all of the buildings are exactly 100% accurate as they would be in real life. So KORS is our initial location. That's the code. And we will be playing with a realistic difficulty level and no extra money bonus. So here we are, we're sitting with $70,000 in cash. We have one employee, which is ourselves, and we are certified to fly single engine piston aircraft. Now, we don't have anything else in terms of aircraft. We don't have any aircraft actually with us, and we do already have a job that's offered. So the different jobs out here are something like passenger transport. In fact, if I go to the logistics center and let's just type in, is KJFK Kennedy. Let's just search at Kennedy just to show you some of these jobs. So here are a bunch of jobs that happen to fit my search criteria. So you can see these are worth certain amounts of money. Some of them might be medical transport. Some of them might be passengers. Now this one I actually can't take because there's actually a skill tree built into this OnAir Company Manager virtual airline. And I don't have skills in medical jobs yet. So you can invest in hiring other people. You can get a passenger license and be able to fly passengers from point A to point B. So lots of opportunities there for us. The game always starts you off with one level 1 mission, and it's always going to be really valuable, more valuable than you'd find in terms of experience and pay normally with other types of cargo runs. So we're supposed to be carrying cargo from Orcas Island here, just north through the bay over to CZBB, which I believe is up in Canada. Yeah, the Canadian airports I think have the C letter in front. And this is up in Boundary Bay, just south of Vancouver. So that's exciting. Be a lovely flight. So the first things first, we're going to have to find a plane. So let's go to where our pilot is actually sitting at KORS. And that's also where that job has already been accepted. So we do have to have a plane come to KORS, but we don't necessarily have to start there. We just have to get a plane to there in order to take our cargo mission. So I'm going to search for any aircraft that are for sale. There are 2 pages of aircraft for sale or for rent. And I'm actually going to filter on this column. This says sim, which sim you're using. So we are using Microsoft Flight Sim. Oh, there's only a flight design and an Asobo Savage Cub. The Savage Cub is kind of a bush plane. It's more designed to get in and out of tight spots out in the wilderness. And the other thing was like a, what was that one called? Flight design, whatever this thing is right here. I don't really think this is going to be carrying much cargo. This seems almost like an ultralight. 2 passengers, and really no room for cargo. So I guess what we'll do instead is we're going to search for other airports nearby. Now, the airplane that I have in mind, instead of doing just a traditional Cessna 172 Skyhawk, I'm going to look into the Beechcraft Bonanza G36. Now, this is one of the stronger performers of the single propeller type of aircraft. Instead of turboprop, it's actually considered to be the same engine style as a Cessna, so it doesn't require a different certification. So let's look for an aircraft in a list. It is a single engine piston, and we will be filtering by Microsoft Flight Simulator and looking for a G36 Bonanza. There we go. And we'll search within 250 miles of, I keep forgetting this airport, KORS. So KORS, let's see how many aircraft are available. Hey, guess what? There's tons. So let's sort by distance, and we can find that there is one aircraft right here for 139,000. This could be ours to own, or we could try to rent it. So the easiest thing to do, the better, probably fiscally smarter thing to do, would be to rent this aircraft. Now, we could take a skill point into loans and be able to start looking into some loans to take out, but I'm wondering if we don't have this may not be a plane that can carry enough cargo to make enough money to pay down a loan. So let's just start with the rental. This is only 29 miles away. In fact, this is actually where I think our objective, no, sorry, it's in Abbotsford, which is just to the northeast. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to this plane, and I'm going to just bring it back to our starting airport. You can see I'm going to go into the details screen right now, and the rental cost is going to be $270 or credits per hour. And in order to rent this, we'll have to pay about minimum of 10 hours in down payment. So no problemo. Here is the money. I will accept to be teleported to its location for free. I think if you don't accept the teleport and your pilot has to be moved, it will take them real life time to get moved from point A to point B. So I'm going to take a flight real quick. I'll keep this just off screen because I'm just transporting this plane from here to here. So let me go ahead and do that real fast, and I'll be right back. Okay, one quick hop down from Canada, and we are at Orcas Eye. We are waiting for, well, for us, I guess. We are ready to go. Our pilot's ready. Our plane is ready. Let's go over to prepare for the next flight. That's the button that we'll normally hit. If you are on the home screen, you have to go over to the aircraft screen first in order to get everything set up. So here we go. Aircraft, this is our Bonanza G36. By the way, a couple cool things we can do. If we set up everything, you do have to set up things in both areas. So the virtual airlines as well as the simulator itself. But the simulator is relatively easy. Now we're going to be heading from KORS. So I'm going to go ahead and type in KORS as our departure airport. And I'll put us here at one of the gate ramps, the parking areas, just next to the runway. I do tend to prefer to kind of be starting cold and dark. It's a little level of immersive there for me. So we'll set that as our departure. Oops. I didn't mean to delete the departure. I will one day figure out my clicks. There we go. Set as a departure. This is our Bonanza G36. And we're going to change a couple of things. So first off, just for funsies, I will go ahead and put in the fact that we are tail number N2302 Lima. 302, there we go. And we'll call this call sign Odin 001. That is our first, well, actually, in theory, second flight that the Odin Airlines has ever made. So we're going to prepare carefully. Sorry, I've been playing a lot of Dwarf Fortress. Not prepare carefully, but it's still the same thing, prepare. Now, we are going to be going to CZBB. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and fire up CZBB. There we go. That's going to set our flight plan. We're going to be just heading right across the bay, so I will try to get a little bit of altitude in case we have any kind of in-flight issues. And flight conditions, we do have all players, and I usually use live traffic, but I have been recently messing around with some of the settings in the game where you can actually manually change how much air traffic you may want. But we'll go ahead and rely on live traffic and all players, and we'll do both live in terms of weather and time. Now, the time in the simulator will actually get its information from the virtual airline, but the weather is whatever you choose. So we'll see what weather is available for us over in beautiful Pac Northwest. And I'm just going to go ahead and start flying. This will just start loading the game. Meanwhile, while that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and finish up this part. So we are going 22 nautical miles. So obviously we have plenty of fuel in both tanks. So we shouldn't really have to do much there. We have a range of 204 miles. So we have 30 minutes of extra flight time. No problem there. I will check this box, which tells our crew that we want to load this cargo. We are below our maximum gross weight and our maximum payload. And I'm just going to go ahead and choose confirm and fly now. And this is kind of cool. There's actually some apron work now simulated going on. So they're actually fueling your aircraft as well as loading all of the cargo onto the plane. So we'll go ahead and set our flight information here, our flight plan. So we're heading to CZBB. The game automatically generates an alternate runway in case we have any issues. So if we have any problems for whatever reason and we're unable to land in Vancouver Boundary Bay, we will turn over to Whidbey Island. Now, the aircraft that we're working with is instrument rated, so it can fly if the weather is completely socked in with rain and fog. We should still be able to fly it, I guess, depending on if CZBB has ILS capability. Oh, it does not. So this is only a VOR airport. I think ILS, we would actually get a frequency listed right here, and ILS means instrument landing system. There's basically a laser beam that shoots out to your aircraft that helps you navigate to the runway in less than ideal visual conditions. So something to keep in mind. We'll talk more about VFR, IFR, all these different concepts for flight a little bit later on. But as you can see, we're now on the tracking screen and the game is loaded. Ooh, this is cool. The game is loaded. We are over here at Orcas Island Airport. Now this is one of the handcrafted airports. So everything here matches 100% with what's in real life. So there's like a little tiny office here. There's a little tiny aeronautical services hangar over there. Really pretty, actually. Really great weather up here in the Pacific Northwest. I don't see a cloud in the sky. Does that mean that we don't have a connection to the weather thing right now, or is it just this beautiful right now up in Northwest Washington State? So we'll go back over to the tracker in the Virtual Airlines tracker, and as you can see, these green check marks are telling us that everything is ready right now for the Virtual Airlines to talk to the simulator and track our flight. So we're going to go ahead and say start tracking. And immediately, if you noticed, our plane might have had a little bit of a change in weight. So there is somewhere that we can customize where the weight gets distributed, and I keep forgetting to do that. But we are all of our lovely food. What are we doing? Are we bringing foodstuffs? It just says cargo. We'll pretend that we're bringing poutine. We're bringing some San Juan Islands poutine up to Canada. We're gonna have a poutine taste contest, and then we'll stop and get some Tim Hortons. But we have so much poutine in the back of this aircraft that it has completely changed the balance on the ground. So that's not the worst thing in the world. It's not ideal by any means, but we shouldn't be able to get punished by that. So before we get started, I do want to say that there's a line for me between immersion and fun. So I will always try to have some level of immersion and try to stick to FAA guidelines where possible, but at the same time, we're going to see some sites, and I probably won't get everything perfectly accurate in the startup procedures for the G36. So please do not execute me if I don't get everything just perfect. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and start up our aircraft, turn on the batteries, turn on the avionics master. This is the G1000 suite of navigation tools from Garmin. Awesome stuff. And we'll go ahead and turn on all of our lights here. Landing and taxi lights. Pull the parking brake. pitot heat is on. And we're going to go ahead and bring RPM to max. And full full mixture for fuel, full rich. And I think we're pretty much all set to go. Our navigation is already set, so we are basically doing a GPS navigation straight north. I'm going to go ahead and change the CDI button a couple times. This tells our plane how, if we turn on the autopilot and use the nav button, how is the plane going to navigate? And we're telling it that it's going to use the GPS data as opposed to the VOR, which we'll talk about at some point down the road. Low voltage because our aircraft is not turned on yet. That's fine. I'll make sure the throttle is set to about 1200 or so RPM. Parking brake was on, and yeah, I think we're good to go. Let's go ahead and, hey guys, don't step into my propeller, okay? You just hang out there. Oh, you are in very strange sync. I like your boots, though. Really nice boots. Having a great day. A little cold on the left, a little comfortable on the right. Fair enough. Let's go ahead and start the magnetos.
Your flight will be monitored until you land and shut down the engines.
That little voice you heard was actually telling us that the flight is being monitored now by our virtual airline thingy. So it does detect that we are on the plane or in the plane, and it's also detecting when the engine has been turned on, because it tracks the usage of your engine, which is crazy in depth. And you'll start to have conditions go down over time, so your aircraft will need to get repaired and do the standard inspections every so many hours. So pretty awesome stuff. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and set a couple of things for autopilot. So my target altitude, now this is going to be mostly over water. So I'm going to go ahead and set about 6,000 or so feet as our target. Again, though, our flight is really short. We're only 22 miles away. So we're just pretty much going up and then across the bay and then over to this airport. So if we have any problems, hopefully we won't have to make a water impact on the ground. What else did I want to do? I think that's pretty much it. We'll make the heading bug point north in case we have to rely on using heading instead. All right. And yeah, let's take a quick peek around the airport, make sure that no one else is going to be in our way as we start to taxi. A cute little airport here. There's actually like a little road, little taxiway going up into the hills where there's more hangars and whatnot. Is that an airplane that's live over there? No, not moving. All right. Looks good to me. And no one else is here. So we are fine and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and spin up my propeller. My RPM's enough to make the airplane kind of tilt downward like that. There we go. Hopefully I can keep it pointing down. I can. We're going to go ahead and release the brake. I'm going to go third person just for funsies. And I guess we are currently facing, south. So we will want to turn around basically and use that runway for our departure. I should notify everybody that I am actually taxiing over to the runway. So I'm going to announce that I'm taxiing.
Sierra traffic Odin 002 is taxiing to runway 16.
And I'm also going to go ahead and give myself one notch of flaps and announce that I'm going to go ahead and depart to the north because there's no one pretty much around. Just really quick, I will double check.
Odin 002 taking off runway 16 departure.
Because not every player or AI, I guess for that matter, not every person in the world would announce themselves on the final into a runway. So double checking that the runway is clear. And we'll spin up the RPMs. A little bit awkward to fly when your tail is dragging on the ground. So I'm actually holding the yoke all the way forward in order to keep my plane pointing down. But there we go. I'll go ahead and release a little bit, and the plane will naturally start to tilt backwards. So it should make takeoff pretty easy. We'll press spacebar to get over our cowling here. Ooh, hi. Yeah, a little bit awkward when you're overweighted. The plane wants to really stick the nose back, and it might try to do that before you're quite ready. Positive rate of climb, gear up.
Airborne time logged.
And look at that, beautiful outside right now. Absolutely beautiful. Go ahead and release the flaps. Trim myself. Oh, I got a warning about stall. Okay, so interestingly, I will talk a little bit about these virtual airlines. Now, some of them, like I mentioned before, some of these virtual airlines are, I would say, more simplistic in how they track your flight. So some of them track where you start and where you end, and that's it. Some of them track how efficient your flight is, and that's what OnAir Company Manager does. So the fact that I just had a stall at the start of our flight means that we'll get a slight ding in our reputation because that is basically a safety violation or safety hazard. So we'll get a slight ding for stalling, but over time, as you continue to have safe and just good flights with no problems, you'll get reputation bonuses, and it's not that big of a deal. But it's interesting that that type of stuff is tracked. If I were to roll at an angle greater than 30 degrees, it would also give a penalty because, it's, think about it. If you've got cargo in the back of your plane, well, your poutine is all over the place, right? You don't want your poutine to be all over the ceiling. Never abuse the poutine, my friends. But it is looking good up here. Look at that. It's gorgeous outside. Absolutely gorgeous. A bunch of islands off to our left and behind us. So Victoria Island, which is considered to be British Columbia, I think that's Victoria Island all the way over there. That's where Victoria is, the city of Victoria. I think Nanaimo would be much farther up along the coast. I love little town of Nanaimo. It's adorable. I really just want to move up here. Listen, if you live in Nanaimo, Victoria, shoot me a job application. I'll apply to be whatever you're doing. Please, I want to move there. Let me be Canadian. I love hockey already. It's fine. It's fine. I appreciate Tim Hortons. It's great. Over to our right is the state of Washington. Up north would be, if we continue, of course, our objective, but also the city of Vancouver in British Columbia as well. And far to our southeast is the city of Seattle. And beyond that, beautiful Mount St. Helens. So we're going to go ahead and use our autopilot. Now, I'm getting a little bit of a warning about RPM. Normally on cruise, or sorry, on climb, you don't have to worry so much about your RPM, but I'm going to go ahead and just bring back my RPM gauge a bit so as not to stress the motor too much. I'm also rolling to the left just a little bit which can be adjusted by using trim. I'll talk about trim in a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and enable autopilot. So first things first, I'm going to hit AP and then nav. So the plane will automatically now fly and track our little GPS line. So the plane will try to, the autopilot will try to navigate to match this line. Now what this is telling you is that your GPS target is at a course of 332, and this center bar tells you how far away from your course you are. So if it's off to the right, that means you need to go more in this direction to pick up the course. So once everything lines up and you're facing the same direction as your little pink needle here, that means you are exactly on course, which is pretty nifty. In terms of altitude, I think I'm actually just going to hold us where we are. We are 2,000 feet above sea level. I mean, I don't really think at a certain point we'd have to be pretty high up and able to be able to coast in. But the runway is actually going to be just at the coast there. So somewhere right along the coastline is where our runway is going to be. So if we happen to lose engine right now, it probably wouldn't be a great idea, a great day for us. But we could swim. We've got some safety harnesses and stuff like that, so I'm sure we'll be fine, right? Again, a little bit of immersion and a little bit of fun factor. So interestingly, the fact that there's no clouds in the sky whatsoever kind of makes me think that the game isn't communicating with the weather service. So I don't know where Flight Simulator gets its weather information, but every so often I'll have a flight like this where the cloud, it's completely cloudless in the sky. And yeah, that's definitely possible in some areas, but I kind of get the feeling that there are at least some clouds in the area, and I don't see any right now because I just took off from Canada to come down here and there were some clouds. So I'm going to actually change things up a bit. I'm going to add in just a random setting for scattered clouds because I love flying through clouds. I think it's fun. It's gorgeous. It adds some life to your atmosphere. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Little storm cloud over there. And it also helps us get a little more comfortable with our instruments, right? So as you're flying through clouds like this, you obviously can't see when you're inside of a cloud. So you have to start trusting your equipment. Now, I believe there is something called VFR versus IFR. VFR is visual flight rules, and IFR is instrument flight rules. And this basically is, at a certain point, your flight, whatever you're doing, turns from just, looking out and verifying where certain things are to relying on instruments to get your information. So we are not in a IFR conditions. IFR conditions, I think, are relating to a visibility of less than 3 miles and a ceiling. I don't know what the ceiling height, maybe this is IFR. I'm not sure. But a ceiling of the clouds of a certain height. I'm not really certified or anything like that, so I can't give you the exact numbers on what a flight is considered to be IFR versus VFR, but we'll be able to pick up the runway quite easily. In fact, that is the runway right ahead of us. So real quick, let's go ahead and go over to our tracking information. That little horn sound that you heard, it should have meant that we were passing our altitude hold. But there we go. I'll click on the altitude hold button. So this is actually going to act as an in-flight tracker. It's telling us that it's tracking our flight. We have runways at 071225 and 30. The numbers mean the course or the heading that this runway is. If you were at the start of the runway, if you were looking down the runway, that's the course or the heading that you would be at. So 306 would be this way. 25 would be over here. 07 is this way. So it's basically a runway like this and like this. So what I'm going to do, if this runway is kind of like this, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my heading hold. We're going to aim a little bit to the right of the airport, switch over to heading hold. I'm going to reduce our speed a bit, kind of slow down so we can plan out our approach. We also need to go ahead and start going down a bit in elevation. So I'm going to set our target elevation to about, we'll do 2,000 feet for now. And so I basically set the target elevation, and then I can click on VS for vertical speed, and I start going up or down. So we'll descend at a rate of about 800 feet per minute. Now we are fully in the cloud. So now we actually have to really start trusting our equipment a little bit more. So you can still see through the cloud. I think that is the runway over there somewhere, because we are now pointing, we are offset the runway. There we go. There's the runway. You can see the runway is going like at angles to each other. So that is the entrance to the runway. We are pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and get on the radio and accidentally hit the OneDrive shortcut. Let's go ahead and do nearest airport. We are looking for CZBB, Vancouver Boundary Bay. And this does have a tower, so we're going to tell them that we are requesting a full stop and go, or sorry, a full stop landing.
Is 6 miles south with Alpha to land. Odin 002 tower.
Oh, okay.
Enter left base runway 25.
So enter left base. What that meant is that we're actually entering the traffic pattern, and we are going to runway 25. We're actually going to go past the runway because
Runway 25 Odin 002.
hang on, 25. Which runway is 25? 25 would be this way. I guess this is the right runway. Runway 25. Yeah, we're still at the wrong angle. Okay, so we're still pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and take us off of autopilot. Control Z, I think, is the shortcut for that. We are really high, so I'm gonna go ahead and give us a little bit more of a sharper descent. I'm gonna give us a notch of flaps as well to slow the plane down. Is that runway 25 in front of me? That should be runway 31. Where's runway 25 at? Runway 25. To be honest, nothing really matches up. Hang on. I'm really confused. Let's see if we can zoom in to this airport and see the actual runways themselves. How many runways are there? Oh, okay, I see it. I see it. My bad. I'm literally was lining up for the wrong airport. That's a little bit awkward, or wrong runway. I'm gonna go ahead and bring our gear back up. I didn't realize this is a three-pronged runway, or sorry, actually it's two-pronged. I thought this, which is like a taxiway, was actually a runway. There's our runway right there under my mouse right now, out of the left window. So we're gonna go ahead and just go towards kind of like the end of the runway. Just give ourselves enough space to turn in. Go ahead and decelerate a little bit more. Lovely clouds in the area too. Now this is the weather that I love. Now the live weather system does work really well, and it can show you, it can really like give you a feeling of moving through different storm fronts and stuff like that. It's really, really fun. Let's go ahead and put our gear down. We're pretty high right now, but this is a really long runway, so I'm not terribly worried about it. I'm going to go ahead and cut back the power pretty much to 0. Knots. That was our simulator, virtual airline, telling us the information about wind as well. Now, if we were properly lined up, we would have observed some lights to the side of the runway. Those are PAPI lights, and those tell you if you are too high or too low with this runway. I don't see them at the moment. Maybe this runway doesn't have PAPI lights. I don't know. But there we are. We are on, appropriately lined up with runway 25. Just lining up, holding above the center line, letting gravity pretty much bring us down. So we're not really trying to point towards the runway. We're just cutting our engine,
landing
letting
time
gravity
logged.
do the rest. I did a little
Landed
bit of a bounce,
Charlie
so not
Zulu,
the best
Bravo,
bounce,
Bravo,
or not the best landing.
Vancouver/Boundary Bay.
Go ahead and tap the brakes here, and at some point we should have an exit off the runway to the right. And there we go, friends. Welcome to Boundary Bay. Exit runway when able. Got it. I'll get my booty off the runway here. Can't quite see sometimes because our lovely aircraft. Oh God. Hey, I made it. Oh God. Oh God. Oof, boy, that weight problem is serious. We're gonna go ahead and acknowledge our ground handoff.
124.3 Odin 002.
Look, it wasn't the most beautiful of landings, but it did what it needed to do. We'll tune to the ground real quick and request taxi to parking, the general aviation parking. It's right in front of us. Hopefully, we won't have too many issues getting from here to there. Hey, G, thanks. Taxiway Alpha, I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, God. There we go. Just get our nose down a bit so we're not quite booty on the ground. Acknowledge our taxi clearance, close the radio down, and we'll just go ahead and just find a spot over here somewhere. I don't know, I think we come through the center, or is there like an entrance? I think there's an entrance on either end. Look, we're going to skip the line a little bit. We're just going to skip the line, and we'll say that this is our parking spot. I don't think anyone's going to give us a ticket. But yeah, this is basically it, guys. This is how you can coordinate between using your flight simulator. I'm going to go and release my flaps. This is how you can use your flight simulator and get some more value out of the fact that you just put 60 bucks into a game, and then you're like, well, crap, what do I do now? This is a way to do it. You have a career mode, and I just delivered a little bit of goods here. So like we said, poutine delivery for Canada. We are still being tracked in the game, so what we have to do is quite quickly go into the airplane and do our shutdown procedure. So first things first, all of our lights go off. This is normally shutdown procedure for this aircraft. I think we're pretty much good there. Let's go ahead and cut the fuel off.
Engine off, time logged.
And there we go.
End of flight.
So this is going to tell OnAir that our flight is done. And now OnAir is telling us that, hey, this was a valid flight. It's actually going to analyze our data from the flight and tell us how we performed. I love that part. It really encourages you to not have crazy maneuvers. It really gives you, and as you do that, you start to get, I don't know, you start to play a little bit more accurately, if you will. You try to start playing a little bit more like a real pilot would. We got experience and we did get a level up, which is awesome. And our flight was completed. So there we go. Our flight has been monitored. We took off from Orcas I and we landed in CZBB, delivering our goods, making some money. Transported 533 pounds, awful sound effect. And here's some stuff about our reputation. So I stalled there at the start of our takeoff because of the fact that the aircraft was weighted towards the back. So the game gave me a little bit of a negative to our reputation. Not a big deal in the end. Our reputation will be really easy to increase, especially on longer flights. And it also gives you a little bit of wear, which is really cool. Normal wear and tear, 0.04. Such a neat little tracking thing. So there we are. Now we are basically at this airport. Our pilot is at this airport. Our plane is over here. And if we want to go anywhere, we don't necessarily have to find a job from here, but it would be, if we're trying to make money, remember every hour this plane is in the air, we have to pay $270. So we want to make sure that whenever possible, we're taking jobs from point A to point B. As soon as we finished our first mission, we have a level 2 mission now, which is another 2,000 experience points and $7,500. This one is a multi-leg type of flight. So this is 5 legs. We've got cargo delivery going from KORS to CZBB. We have cargo delivery to KAWO down here to Seattle. And then some passenger transports. And actually, we can actually do all of this at once. We can fit all of this into our airplane. But the problem is, obviously, none of this is really in a great spot. So here's what I would probably do. We are probably going to go back to KORS, and we're going to take up the cargo to be delivered to Vancouver. There's a person that needs to be delivered to, I think this might be Vancouver International. That's great. A little tiny prop plane landing at Vancouver International. Hey, and it's Nanaimo. And we have a person to deliver to Nanaimo. So probably our first flight will be up to CZBB, bounce over to Vancouver, bounce across the bay to Nanaimo, come back home, see if there's a cargo run to pick up from Nanaimo back home, and then fly over towards Seattle. So these airports are to the north of Seattle, but they would give us on that direction. And the reason I like to take these level 2 types of jobs is because they give you a really big boost to your income and to your experience. But if we were looking for a random job here at CZBB, we would go over to the logistics center, type in CZBB here, and do a little bit of a search. Now, I particularly have kind of changed the criteria of our search for our plane. So we can only carry, I think, 900 pounds. We can only carry 500. We can only carry 5 passengers. So that's what my search is right now. What I'm looking for, and actually I need to search for really short trips because we're only 20 miles away from our home airport. I'm simply trying to find something to take home just to save us a little bit of money. So I'm just going to scroll down this list. I don't know how far KORS is away from us. Let's do sort by distance because it's obviously going to be very close. Like 20 something, 30 something miles maybe. Nope, no cargo running straight down to KORS. So here's what we'll do. I'll just take off again and fly back to KORS to pick up this next, stage of our flights. So just to show you some of the other types of jobs here, I searched for medium trips, so 250 to 500 nautical miles. There are some cargo and passenger missions that are worth quite a bit of money, actually, 182,000, 96,000. These are the big money missions, and really, this is what I want to start looking for as soon as I can. Unfortunately, with the weight of the passengers, I think every single person in the game is 190 pounds in the OnAir company manager. Hi, little Cessna. How you doing today? Every single person is 190 pounds, so our little aircraft really wouldn't be able to take these passengers where they needed to go. So more than likely, what we'll do once we finish doing some of the starter missions is we'll go into the search generate aircraft, and we're going to look for a better plane. Now, let me go back to the main menu because our flight is done basically. So we can end the flight here. So I will go ahead and end this and head back to the menu. So if we wanted to move into turboprop category, we have a couple of options. We have the TBM 930, the Beechcraft King Air 350, and the Cessna Grand Caravan. So all of these have really good range and really good cargo capacity. I tend to lean towards the smaller, leaner aircraft. The Grand Caravan kind of feels like you're flying an Airbus. Feels like you're trying to move a cruise ship in the air. The TBM is amazing. It's got a really, really strong and powerful climb values, maximum altitude of 31,000, 35,000 for the Beechcraft. So I think, I kind of wonder what the cost would be for, let's say, a multi-engine piston. I don't know if it's multi-engine piston or if it's considered to be a turboprop. Let's go ahead and filter out from there. So the G58, I don't know what the Baron G58, I think the G58 is, let's see, Baron G58. I think it's a twin engine aircraft. Yeah, Beechcraft Baron is a twin engine. So we don't have that available to us in Flight Simulator. Now it says it should be, so maybe that's a plane that's available as part of a pack. Like if you bought one of the really fancy packs for Microsoft Flight Simulator, maybe that would be available. Here's the Beechcraft King Air. So out of curiosity, are there any of these for rent around us? Boy, it would cost $2.6 million in order to buy this plane, I think, fresh and new. So the rental price for this is going to be $3,500 for every flight hour. But consider this, if we fly one of these missions that's, worth $70,000, that's a great income to rental cost. So we shouldn't have any problems jumping into a Beechcraft King Air. And I will try to jump up pretty quickly into getting into better aircraft. I don't want to be stuck flying the smaller aircraft forever. If you've done any of the virtual simulation stuff, you've done that before. You've put in your hours, you've done the grind work in order to get from the basic level to the higher level aircraft. Now, this simulator, the OnAir Company Manager Virtual Airlines, has 3 worlds that you can fly in. One of those worlds, or 2 of those worlds, I should say, make you go into what's called survival mode. And survival mode just means it locks the difficulty at a certain point. Now, one important factor is it does allow you to use warp. And I really didn't talk about this in this episode, but there is something called sim rate inside of Microsoft Flight Simulator. So if we go to the options under controls, instead of wrong button there, controls, and then search under keyboard for sim. So if you press this, well, for you, it's going to probably be R. I think I rebound this to my comma key, but if you press this and then you release it and press Control plus or minus on your keypad, you can speed up or slow down the simulation of the game. And OnAir Company Manager recognizes the sim rate being used. So if you're on a server that is using the survival rate, what'll happen is your plane, once you complete your flight in the simulator, your plane and your pilot will be locked into warp mode until the normal time of arrival. So the estimated normal time of arrival, if you would have just stayed in the air and flown at a 1-to-1 ratio, it'll lock in place. And it's fair because that's a server or a world where other players can kind of compete for leaderboard positions. So it lets you enjoy a bit of a longer flight without having to sit in front of the computer for 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours. You can do a 5 to 7 hour flight and maybe just 1 hour using the simulation stuff. So something to keep in mind there, but we're on a server that's a little bit more lenient and I'm just mostly having fun with it. We're not going to abuse that warp stuff too much, but it mostly helps us get through the longer flights a little bit easier. So that's pretty much it for this episode, friends. Next episode, I probably will pick up this mission where we're going to drop off in different areas, or I guess maybe we can just leave this be. And maybe, what if we just take out a new plane? That could be an option. What if we just right now pick up a Baron 58, not a Baron 58, sorry, a King Air 350. What if we grab that? Now, the cool thing about this is we are only certified on single engine planes. Our pilot is only certified on single engine piston. We'll actually have to take a check ride in order to get certified for whatever aircraft we rent, which is kind of cool. So maybe we'll do that next episode, and maybe we'll just hire someone and we'll let them fly the crazy delivery leg, and we'll go have some fun far away. Thanks so much for joining me, friends. I do hope you enjoyed this first episode of a career mode that's built to a game that doesn't have a career mode. How much fun is that? I will say I'm absolutely loving Flight Simulator. It's everything that I wanted from a sim. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. The aircraft, the level of detail that they've gone into for the aircraft that come with the game in terms of being able to use almost every single button or knob on a lot of these aircraft is really awesome, and I am loving it. So if you're looking for more of a review type thing, that's where I land on that. I love it. I always enjoy the flight simulators, and pairing that with a virtual airline like OnAir or FS Economy really helps to stretch your gameplay. So if you have any questions about that, please do let me know in the comments below. If you also wouldn't mind, please do leave a like, subscribe, leave me a comment too. Are you using one of the other types of virtual airlines out there? And if you are, let us know which one, so people can kind of figure out which alternatives there are to, you know, just maybe they don't want to pay for OnAir Company Manager, you want to try a free one, let us know in the comments below. If you want to join our Discord, there is information in the more description below. And if you like this type of content, hey, this is what I do, and you want to throw me a little bit of money to pay for some food and pay for Odin's treats, please do take a look at the PayPal information below as well. Thanks, friends, so much. I appreciate you being here. Fly safe, and I will see you again in the next episode.